Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning all. How are you today? I hope everything will be all right. In this good occasion, I would like to continue our material, and especially for today, we are going to talk about conditional sentences. Yep, conditional sentences. Have you ever heard about conditional sentences before? Okay, I will explain it step by step. What is conditional sentences? Okay, a conditional sentence is a type of sentence that states a condition and the outcome of the condition occurring. Conditional sentences are made up of a dependent clause and an independent clause joined to express said condition. Or in the other words, a conditional sentence is a sentence that expresses a condition. A condition is something that can only happen if something else occurs. Or a conditional sentence contains an independent clause and a dependent clause that almost always begins with the words if. Almost always begin with the word if. A conditional sentence is only a conditional sentence if it has both of these parts. Some conditional clauses might begin with when. Some conditional clauses might begin with when. In other words, conditional sentence biasa juga disebut if clause. Karena, mengapa disebut if clause? Karena conditional sentences biasanya ada kata if. Ada kata if. That's why it's called if clause. Next. Okay, let's see the examples of conditional sentence. Yeah. If I save enough, I can go on vacation. If I save enough, I can go on vacation. Nah, sebagaimana dijelaskan bahwa dalam conditional sentence ada dependent clause dan independent clause. Dependent clause di sana adalah if I save enough. Maksudnya adalah if I save enough money. If I save enough, kemudian di independent clause is I can go on vacation. Jadi dalam kalimat conditional ada dua ya. Ada dependent clause dan independent clause. Itu harus ada keduanya. Jika tidak ada salah satunya, maka tidak disebut conditional sentence. Another example, you can have dessert if you finish your homework. You can have dessert if you finish your homework. Nah, di sana as usual, the dependent clause is if you finish your homework. And the independent clause is you can have dessert. You can have dessert. Okay, let's move to types of conditional sentences. Okay, there are few different kinds of conditional sentences in English. Yep. Here is a brief outline of each kind. The first one is zero conditional. The second is first conditional. The third is second conditional, and the last is third conditional. So we have types of conditional sentences. The first one is zero conditional. The second one is first conditional. The third is second conditional, and the last is third conditional. Okay, let's see the definition of each. What is a zero conditional sentences? A zero conditional sentence is a sentence that expresses a vague or simple implication. I repeat, a zero conditional sentence is a sentence that expresses a vague or simple implication. The dependent clause of the zero conditional begins with if or when. I repeat, the dependent clause of the zero conditional begin with if or when. And the independent clause of the zero conditional begins with the simple present verb tense. Begins with the simple present verb tense or the imperative verb tense. Next, zero conditional statements express conditions that are always true and the conclusion of which can be drawn from their premises. I repeat, zero conditional statements express conditions that are always true and the conclusions of which can be drawn from their premises. Look at the examples of zero conditional. If it rains, things get wet. If it rains, things get wet. If you stare at the sun, your eyes damage. If you stare at the sun, your eyes damage. If you touch a flame, you burn yourself. If you touch a flame, you burn yourself. Okay, move to the next type. The next is first conditional. What is a first conditional sentence? A first conditional sentence is a sentence that expresses an idea that might happen at some point in the future. It is something that is possible, but its certainty is unknown because it depends on another event. I repeat, a first conditional sentence is a sentence that expresses an idea that might happen at some point in the future. It is something that is possible, but its certainty is unknown because it depends on another event. The dependent clause of the first conditional begin with if and use simple present tense. The independent clause of the first conditional use will and the best form of verb. I repeat, the dependent clause of the first conditional begins with if and uses the simple present tense. The independent clause of the first conditional use will and the best form of a verb. Okay, look at the examples of first conditional. If it rains, I will not play outside. If I'm out to lunch, Maria will answer calls. I will wrap his present if he leaves. Okay, there is some note. First conditional sentences can refer to either present or future time. First conditional sentences can refer to either present or future time. Okay, move to the next types. It is second conditional. It is sentence that can express two ideas. It is sentence that can express two ideas. The first ideas, it might express things in the future that are unlikely to happen. The second ideas is used to express an idea that is not true because it is impossible. So, second conditional have two ideas. The first is possible to happen, and the second one is impossible to happen. The dependent clause of the second conditional begin with if and uses the past simple tense or simple past tense. The independent clause of the second conditional uses would and the base form of a verb. Look at the example of the second conditional below. If I knew the answer, I would tell you. If I knew the answer, I would tell you. If I were you, I would not leave tonight. If I were you, I would not leave tonight. If I were president, I would fix the system. If I were president, I would fix the system. Okay, there is some additional notes. Second conditional sentences refer to the present time. Second conditional sentences refer to the present time. Move to the next slide. Okay. The last but not least is the third conditional. It is sentence express a past idea that did not occur. The third conditional sentence expresses an imagined result of the past event that did not occur. In other words, it is unreal. I repeat, the third conditional is sentence express a past idea that did not occur. The third conditional sentence expresses an imagined result of the past event that did not occur. In other words, it called unreal. The dependent clause of the third conditional begins with if and uses the past perfect tense. Begins with if and uses the past perfect tense. The dependent clause of the third conditional uses would and past participle of a verb. Uses would and past participle of a verb. Look at the example below. The examples of third conditional below. If I had listened, I would have not gotten lost. If I had listened, I would have not gotten lost. If he had gone to lunch, you would have answered his calls. If he had gone to lunch, you would have answered his calls. I would have wrapped his present if he had left. I would have wrapped his present if he had left. As usual, there is some additional notes. Third conditional sentences refer to the past. Third conditional sentences refer to the past. The next is punctuating conditional sentences. Conditional sentences are fairly easy to identify because they almost always begin with the word if. They might also begin with the word when, provided that, given that, or considering. Just like other sentences in English, a conditional sentence only requires a comma after the dependent clause when the dependent clause is placed before the independent clause. For example, If the baby wakes, I will be frustrated. If the baby wakes, I will be frustrated. If you go outside, you can see the storm clouds. If you go outside, you can see the storm clouds. When you finish your dinner, you will clean your plate. When you finish your dinner, you will clean your plate. And there is some additional note. This is similar to most English phrases. Okay, I try to give summary of conditional sentence. Okay, the definition of conditional sentence is a sentence type that expresses a condition and the outcome of the condition. In summary, a conditional sentences are usually begin with the word if. Usually begins with the word if. Includes a dependent and independent clause. Includes a dependent and independent clause. Comes in different forms including 0, first, second, and third. Okay, I think that's all for today. I hope you are understand about what I have conveyed. And if you have some question, please leave it on comment box. And close by doa. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.